What's up, Saber fans? This is Gray Paladin, and I have finished updating my Saberforge Vanquish. So on this particular hilt, what I've done is I have added the ShtokCustomWorx pixel blade lit connector. So you've got your pogo pins there, and along with the pogo pins, you have 5 low power LEDs. And this eliminates the need of having to have a Neo blade plug in there. It'll show the color and some of the effects a little bit, which is really cool. I also added a recessed dual tactile switch, and that came from Darkwolf Sabers. And what I'm most proud of is I tried a new speaker. I got this from the Custom Saber shop. It's called Saber Essentials Stealth V2 28mm speaker. Now, the WoW speaker and the speaker from Smuggler's Outpost are both known to be very high quality and very loud speakers. And let's say, for instance, the WoW speaker, which I think is a very high quality speaker, that one goes for $12.99 on the Custom Saber shop. The Saber Essentials Stealth V2 runs $14.99. This is the most expensive speaker, and I thought, what causes this speaker to be so much? So let me just order it, try it out, and see what happens. And let me tell you, this speaker is loud as so it's really great because in the Vanquish, the way the pommel's designed here, it's very thick, and it doesn't hold, doesn't release a lot of sound. And to top it off, the speaker has to be positioned quite a bit up into the hilt. So I did this with a quick connector, and I attached it in there really nice with some hook and latch tape, so that way it doesn't move around. And now my Vanquish has really great loud sound. Along with this, I updated it with the firmware version 10.005C. C as in Charlie. And along with that, I was just reading the manual, and in the manual, there's a lot of things that your CFX board can do that you may not be aware of. So I added some of those things like motion activation, which you see Profi doing a lot, changed some of the blaster effects, and I really tweaked how the clash works. And the lockup, localized lockup. So some really fun things. I'm going to share all those with you in this video. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the kill key and show you the Shtok pixel lit connector. Of course, I've got my favorite sound font on here, Vengeance by KSIF. And as you can see, there are the lit pixels. There are 5 low power LEDs there, and shines through my emitter windows. And what's cool, if you hit your clash, so I really like that. What sucked about it is that you need 24 gauge wire, and I don't have a lot of space in this hilt, so I needed 24 gauge wire. So having to do all that, and you cannot use anything smaller than that because it will not power the pixel blade. I also added a thumb screw, and with the thumb screw, as I said before, I really don't like having to pull out those Allen wrenches all the time, so I added a small thumb screw there. This actually came from the Kill Key shop on Etsy. A lot of options, and they get it to you really fast. So what I like most about this is in my settings, I did what we call power on force, or POF, and then you can adjust the sensitivity of how you can turn the saber on without pressing the activation button. So micro movement, I've got nothing. But when I do it just right, there it goes. So sometimes I can just do a little twist, And then it fires up. If I clash it just right, there it goes. But a little bit of a tap, nothing. You have to set that number to however strong or weak you want it to be. But just enough for me to do that and power it on, which comes in handy with this curved hilt because I don't always have easy access to the switches when I'm trying to swing around. Something else, nice added feature that I did on this was you can set it so that if you tap the auxiliary switch once for your blaster deflection, if you keep swinging, the blasters will keep going until you stop your motion. And now I'm back to normal. So I really like that setting as well. I'm going to go ahead, kill the lights, switch sound fonts, and show you what I did with the blaster, the clash, and lockup.
I've been looking forward to this.
I love this sound font. This is Duke by KSIF. So you can set, there's a lot of different options of how your blaster will look on the blade. I like this one. And as you can see, it has a spreading and a fade effect with each of those blasters. And they are randomized. Now with the clash, a lot of times it's just a quick flash of the entire blade. Well, I set it for a localized clash, and it'll fade away a little bit. And the localization can be set as the same position, or it can be randomized. I set mine randomized. And the same thing can happen with your stab too. Angle it down just slightly, and then hit. And there's your stab. And you kind of get that same hit and fade away. Whoops. There we go. Now the lockup, I did localized lockup, and you can set that for how wide you want it to be and the position on the blade. I like to set mine towards the upper middle and pretty wide. So the tip is still red, the base is still red, but the center has my lockup flash on flash color.
Brave of you, boy. I would have thought you had learned your lesson.
So if you're interested in how to do some of these effects, stay tuned. I'm going to show you how you can program that right on your config file in the root directory and have all these settings for your lightsaber on your Crystal Focus 10. Okay, so the first thing that you need to make sure that you have is the manual for your Crystal Focus 10 soundboard. And then you want to make sure that your SD card is plugged into your computer and you have access to your config file. So now that we have the website up here, looking on the left, you want to click on Manuals and Support. And then from there, scroll down, you can see Crystal Focus Saber Core V10 User's Manual. Click there. And you can see all the versions. So whichever version that you're working on, the latest is going to be here. The version 10.005C, and that's the one that I have in my Saber. So I'm going to go ahead and click the PDF icon here. Once it loads, you will see the full manual here. And this is where I learned and discovered that I can make all these adjustments to my Saber. Once you're there, the next thing you want to go over to is your SD card and double click on your config. And here's going to be all the information that configures and sets up your lightsaber to do what you want it to do. So the first thing that I talked about was the motion power on, or power on force. And for that, you want to go to the abbreviation that says POF, that's power on force. And this is going to be linked to your profiles. So I set all this on profile 0. And you have several profiles on your card. I mean, there's profile 1, all the adjustments you want. So you can have one profile that has power on force. You can have another profile that doesn't have that. But as you can see here, the card currently has 6 profiles. I'm modifying profile 0. So as I'm going down, you'll see POF. This can be a value, the manual suggests any value between 350 and 530, I believe it said. And this is a very large manual. As you can see here, there's 168 pages, a lot of information. The best thing you can do is hit Control F. That's going to bring up your find. Sorry, go over here, Control F. That's going to bring up your find, and you can type in keywords that'll take you directly to what you're looking for. So in this case, we're looking for POF. As you can see, it's going to give us 12 options here. So I'm going to keep clicking until I get to where I need to be. There you go, POF. Enables the power on force saber ignition technique. And it's motion activated ignition. I'm going to keep scrolling until I get to the next portion. That kind of gives me more information there. So here it says motion activated ignition, power on move, power on force. And it explains how it works and what it does. And right there it says values from 350 to 500 are usually fine. This took me a while to kind of figure out. I had to put a number in, take it back out, and then try it again just to get it to the sensitivity that I wanted. I found that 300 worked best for me. I think anything lower than that is just too sensitive, and sometimes it just constantly turns on. Even when you power it off, it turns back on automatically, which can be very annoying. And the only way for me to stop it was to put a kill key in the recharge port, pull out the SD card, and reset the number. So I found that 300 works well for me, but the manual suggests 350 to 500. Once you set that, now you don't need to press the activation button to turn the saber on. You can do it with just shaking or moving the saber. Now, anytime you make an adjustment here, and I always save after every adjustment I make. So once you make the adjustment, you go up to File, you click Save, and that will save the setting that's on there. If you don't click Save and you close the window, it's going to reset back to where it was when you first opened it, and none of the changes you made will stick. Also, before you make any changes, always remember to save a backup of that file before you make adjustments. So if you make a mistake, because there's a lot of information here and a lot of numbers, if you make a mistake and you don't know what you did wrong, you can always go back to the original file that you have backed up. So always keep that in mind. Now for the localized lockup, you want to scroll down to style _ lockup. And for what I had, the localized lockup, that was number 2. And you can find information on that in the manual. I can't remember the exact page. But I think if I did a control find here, style _ lock, and there it is. Style _ lockup defines lockup effects style, and you can put that number in there. And then here's the information. Style 1, legacy lockup, that's the entire blade. 2, that's the localized lockup, and you can read the rest of the information that's there. So that's the number 2 for style _ lockup if you want the localized lockup. Now if you want to change how big the localization is, then you want to scroll down to, let's see, where is it? There's so much information on here. Here you go. Size _ lockup. It's right here. So you want to basically type in the number of pixels that you want to activate. And I think this is the number on both strips. So the 180, divide that in half, and that's essentially the width of what you're going to see lit on the blade. And then the position, that's POS _ lockup. That's going to be where it's positioned on the blade. And like I said, I wanted mine just above the middle, so that was 80 for me, and that was exactly what I wanted. So I put it at 80, I did the size at 180, and that gave me the upper center of the blade for showing my lockup. All right, next thing is the blaster style. And this is how you want the blaster to look. So for mine, how it was hitting and then spreading apart and then fading away, that was blaster style 6. So right here you see style_blaster, and then 6 is what I was going for. Now, again, if you look to your manual, just type your style_blaster, and then it'll take you to that on your in your manual, and then you can see the different styles right here. And for 6, it says splitting waves with tailing combined with an impact flare. So that's what I put on for my blaster style. And there's a lot of different options here, and you can play around with all of those to see which you like best or which fits your saber or that particular profile. So the next thing is going to be how I pressed the blaster once, and then when I swing the saber, it continues to do automatic blasters until I stop swinging. And for that one, you want to look for Blast M. And here it is right there. I highlighted it. Blast M, and I went for 1. And the number 1, that's going to give you the blaster that that continues to sound as you're swinging the blade, which I think works great, especially with the curved hilt, because it's hard to press that button and still have good swinging technique. It also allows you to just do a lot more, show flashing things without having to tap that button each time. Yeah, so here it says, enables blaster move. Blaster move allows the ability to trigger a sequence of blaster sounds with the motion of the hilt. Only the first sound is triggered by a short press on the auxiliary switch. Then further swing-like gestures will trigger more blaster sounds until a blaster sound ends, or if a clash interrupts the sequence. So if you set it at 0, it's going to be manual. You have to press it every single time, which you can still do, even if it's set to automatic. But when you put a 1 after Blast M, it will continue to sound blasters with your swing until you stop, and then it resets back to normal. So that's pretty much it. There's a lot more things you can do to customize your saber, and you can do different settings for each of your profiles. Oh, and before I forget, right here, when you see FOCD, that's flash on clash duration. I set mine for 400, which I believe is broken down into milliseconds. So normally it's going to default at 100, and at 100 it's going to flash light very quickly, and as quickly as you see it, it's gone. But I bumped mine up to 400, and that's where you see that slight fade back to the original hilt color. So you can play around with that. You can let the clash sit even longer if you want by raising that number. And if you come over to the manual, remember Control Find, and you can type these information in, and it'll take you right to that particular spot on in the manual. So there, FOCD, flash on clash duration, and you can set that anywhere from 0 to 1000. And there's more information on all of that. Again, the manual is very long. There's a lot of information there, but anything you want, it's going to give it to you right there. So before you ask questions on other people's videos and things like that, check the manual. All the information's there, because we're just going to tell you what the manual says. And it's very easy. Just click on it, do your Control Find, type in what you're looking for, and bam, all the information's right there. And I almost forgot, in order to utilize the power on force activation, you have to make sure that each of your fonts has a power on F sound in the file. So I'm going to click on my Vengeance folder here. it's working on it. There we go. And as I scroll down, you should see all of your power ons. For this particular one, I have 8. And then there is power on F. This is the power on force. If you do not have this labeled file in there, if you do the motion activation, the saber will just quickly turn on. You won't hear any sound. The light will turn on. You won't hear any sound. There'll be a pause, and then the hum will just automatically start. So to avoid that, make sure you have power on F there. And honestly, you can choose any of the, if there's not one already in your package, you can just copy any of these power ons that you like and rename it to power on F, and that will work with your motion activation. So that about does it on those adjustments that I made. And again, it's going to do that in your root directory. Double click your config, scroll down to your whichever profile you want to do, and then you can use that information and those numbers there. If you have any questions on what's over here, what any of these things mean, again, just go back to your manual, type in that abbreviation, and it will send you to that paragraph that explains what each of those things mean. And this is how you customize and update your saber to the way you want it. And doing all these things makes it that much more realistic when you're playing with your lightsaber. So I hope that was helpful to you, and you can do that to your lightsaber and have a more realistic and fun experience.
Are you threatening me, Master Jedi? Let me help you to know the subtleties of the Force.
Now you will experience the full